Hi. Thanks to everybody who came. Thanks to everybody who's reading. Thanks for the emceeing. And special thanks to Anne. We were in really arduous negotiations over ridiculous small things for months and months, and I wouldn't blame her at all if she completely lost patience with me. Before I read this, I'm going to tell you something that a student of mine said recently, which was that before she had read a lot of short stories, she didn't understand that they don't really have to be about anything. This is Jellyfish. Impossibly, Manning and his mother were having the same dream. The funniest thing, she said, last night I dreamed that all anyone had to do was put their hands on their ears, bend their knees, and with a little push, float up into the air. It was marvelous. Manning felt the hairs on his arms stand up. His mother spoke while rearranging two needlepoint pillows so that the one that had been in front was now behind. The only thing was that everyone's head looked perfectly normal, but mine felt like it was huge. She paused, staring at the pillows. Like a pumpkin, Manning said. Yes, like a big pumpkin, a carving pumpkin. Manning didn't tell his mother that he'd had the same dream. He told his sister. That is so typical, Alice said, embroidering furiously. Of course Mom would be dreaming about you. She wasn't dreaming about me. We had the same dream. Well, she's never had the same dream as me, Alice said. She didn't mention the shoes, Manning said, so maybe it wasn't exactly the same. What about the shoes? It felt as if I was wearing heavy shoes, like cartoon animal shoes. I couldn't see them. It's hard to move your head, he spoke more to himself now. I think you need to keep your hands on your ears. What happens if you don't? Alice asked. It turned out if you took your hands off your ears, you floated up. If you looked down at your feet, which appeared to be perfectly normal despite the weighty feeling, you fell. Manning discovered this tumbling down and out of sleep one morning. He limped into the kitchen. His mother said, I had that dream again. What dream? Manning's father appeared in the kitchen, his bathrobe belt trailing behind him. Mom flies around with a pumpkin head, Alice said. He does too. She jerked her thumb at Manning. You do? Manning's mother said. I've never seen you there. There are other people there? Alice was beside herself. Who else is there? Oh, I don't know. Everyone seems occupied with whatever they're doing. I don't want to interrupt. What are they doing? Alice appeared as if her own head might grow larger. It was at the very least changing color. I've been flying for years, Manning's father said. Fighter jets, that sort of thing. It's great fun in dreams. Manning and his mother looked at each other. Whatever he was talking about, they both knew that Manning's father was not experiencing what they were experiencing. There were no airplanes or architecture, only vast lavender space. Manning recognized some of the other people floating around, a lifeguard from the pool, a substitute teacher he had in 5th grade. No one spoke to anyone else. He tried acknowledging people as they passed, but everyone seemed, as his mother had said, occupied in something. He saw a friend of his mother's, Nora Woolley. She smiled pleasantly as they passed each other, but didn't seem to really see him. He began to wonder about his mother. He asked her, do you see people you know? Oh, yes, she said, scraping carrot skins into the sink. Remember Dr. Lieberman? You had that odd rash. And that heavy-set man that sat in the back row of church? Have you ever seen me? She apologized. No, darling, I never have. And this began to bother Manning. Why hadn't his mother seen him? Alice said, well, do you see her? I saw Nora Woolley. What? What was she doing? And then before he could respond, she added, oh my God, this is hysterical. You know, she said, I'm beginning to think you are experiencing a shared psychosis. Manning felt sure it was not psychosis. The more nights he floated, the more people appeared. Some nights it was almost impossible to move in any way but in unison with everyone else. People were vaguely familiar, but he never saw anyone he really knew. He began to wonder how he looked to the other floaters. Was his face as placid and serene as theirs? Or did it look how he felt, increasingly panicked and claustrophobic? "It's like this," Manning's mother was showing Alice a photograph from a magazine. The caption read, "A smack of jellyfish in the Pacific." "A smack?" Alice said. "That's what they're called, a smack of jellyfish," Manning's mother said. "You know, like a gaggle of geese, a mischief of mice." "But a smack," Alice said. "A slime would be better. A slime of jellyfish. Oh, they give me the heebie-jeebies." The creatures pictured were a gelatinous mass of pink and purple tentacles dangling. It was obvious to Manning that none of them were thinking about anything. He became mildly nauseous, wondering if somewhere in that smack was a jellyfish like himself, striving to connect in some meaningful way with other jellyfish. He investigated the picture closely, imagining that he might find one jellyfish staring at the photographer. "Do they have eyes?" he said. "Jellyfish do not have eyes. They have ocelli, or eye pits," said Manning's father. He read from the magazine article while scratching his head. "No eyes and no brain," he added. Manning decided to confide in his friend Arby as they sat in a fast food restaurant eating spicy chicken fingers. Arby was philosophical. "Dude, it's like when I found my dad's porn." "No, it's not. How is it like that? That time my dad got fired, he didn't want to go back because of what he'd said and shit. He sent me to clean out his locker, and there were magazines with pictures of Asian chicks, and first I was like, whoa, and then I was like, dude. How is that like my dream? You and your mom are the same. You have the same hobby and whatnot." "It's not a hobby, and I don't have a choice." "Dude, who does?" Manning poked some fries into a glop of red gelatinous ketchup, but then left them there. Maybe he did have a choice. He tried staying awake, but failed. He took cold medicine in an effort to knock himself beyond dreaming, but that didn't work. One night, when the group swooshed pleasantly up or around, he tried to move in another direction, which sometimes meant just not moving at all. It required great concentration, but his efforts began to have some effect. If he removed his hands from his ears, then looked at his feet, then replaced his hands quickly, he shifted in a herky-jerky fashion. He was in the kitchen with a slice of orange in his mouth when he felt his mother standing in the doorway staring at him. Alice sat at the table, sorting embroidery threads. "Something very strange," said Manning's mother. "What?" said Alice. "What?" "Your brother," Manning's mother said. "Your brother is up to something." Manning grinned an orange-rind grin. That night, he was again effective in not moving with the group, and for the first time, he heard a sound in the silent velvet world. A voice called, "Stop it! Stop it! Stop it!" He kept going, away from the group, away into something else.